selecting the best framing system finishes for retail construction. Welcome to Building Knowledge 101. In this video, we will discuss how to choose the perfect framing system finishes for retail construction while elevating store aesthetics and adhering to brand guidelines to ensure consistent brand image. Let's talk about finishes now, because finishes are very important for retail construction. Many brands have their own specific, unique finish associated with their brand identity. Oftentimes, a particular color, when you see it, you recognize and know immediately what brand it is, because finish is part of the brand image. This shade of green is pretty recognizable. You probably associated that with the retailer. Brushed stainless steel is an option. You can see cladding over the side lights to maintain that bright finish. Here's a shade of anodizing that's, again, part of a brand strategy. And we all recognize the red at this entry here. So finishes vary quite a bit and are oftentimes very, very key to successful brand strategy. There are a number of finish options available for architectural aluminum frames. Anodizing is one of the most common. So let's start with a review about anodizing. The most common type of process for anodizing was called the two-step process. The first step in the process is the aluminum extrusions are put on a rack and then submerged through a series of tanks. First tank is a non-etching cleaner that just cleans the surface of the aluminum. The second bath is an acid bath that removes any imperfections from the surface. The next bath is a mixture of acid and water, and an electric current is run through the bath that separates the hydrogen and the oxygen. The oxygen is attracted to the surface of the aluminum, where it combines with the aluminum to form a layer of aluminum oxide. The length of time that it's in the bath is going to determine the depth of the pores on the surface. Class 2 layer has pores that are 4 mils thick, and a Class 1 has a layer that's 7 mils thick. You can see in the illustration here how the surface of the aluminum has the aluminum on the inside, there's a barrier layer, and then the pores on the surface. The pores are the aluminum oxide. So that's step one in the two-step process. The second step in the two-step process, the racks are then submerged into a color tank where stable metallic compounds are electrolytically deposited at the base of the pores that were created in the previous step. This seals over the pores, preventing additional material from entering the pores and freezes the oxidation process. The ultimate finish of the anodize is driven by the length of time that each extrusion is kept in the tank and the depth of metallic deposits in each pore. Here's a nice example of a retail brand that combines black anodized frames with painted ACM panels and uses the same color theme throughout all of their buildings. Good example of using two different types of finishes to create that brand image. So anodized finishes are commonly used on entry areas where customers come in contact with the building. The aluminum oxide is a very, very durable, hard surface. So it's great on doors where you're going to have a lot of people moving through and hitting them fairly rapidly and quick. Facilities are open long hours, many days a week, where they have very high traffic flow. Anodized makes a very popular, good option for them. So you can see in these pictures, you're a combination of anodized aluminum frames at the entry area where customers are coming in contact with the facilities, yet other locations, bright colors that are part of the brand image. You recognize and associate these colors with each of the retailers that you see here. Now, the frames don't have to be anodized. You can certainly paint them also. There's many examples and many opportunities for painting entrances. Here's just a few examples here. Doors that have painted finishes on them. So let's talk a little bit about what painted finishes are. Liquid paints are sprayed on commercial architectural aluminum products, and they can be acrylic, polyester, or fluoropolymers. Fluoropolymer is a resin known as PVDF. Then this is a polymer that contains pigments, is sprayed on the aluminum with a solvent so that the solvent carries it to the surface of the aluminum. The solvents can contain 70% fluoropolymer or 50% fluoropolymer. 70% are tested to a higher standard of AMA 2605. They're more durable and resist fading longer than other paint options. Extrusions are racked upon a conveyor system that carries them through multiple paint booths where paint is sprayed in a liquid form onto the extrusions. A positive charge runs through the paint, while a negative charge runs through the extrusions, which pulls the sprayed paint onto the surfaces of the extrusions. This minimizes cleanup, overspray, and does not require deliberately aiming at every surface of the extrusion. There are 6 steps required in applying liquid paint. The first, the aluminum is cleaned to ensure nothing is on the surface to prevent adhesion. The second is a pretreatment that improves adhesion of the primer to the aluminum. The third is a primer sprayed on in liquid form. Fourth, the solvent and the primers are flashed off at a high temperature, baked off. And the fifth, the pigment of the paint is sprayed on. And lastly, the extrusion is baked again to remove all the solvents, melt the fluoropolymers. The fibers in the fluoropolymer expand, intertwine with each other, leaving a smooth, consistent painted finish over the extrusions. This is typically referred to a two-coat process. Two-coat meaning the primer and the finish. Those are the 2 coats. There is the option of using a 3rd coat application. This is typically a clear top coat. So you go through all the 6 steps of this 2-coat and then add the additional top coat, flash, and then bake. So typically when you have a bright finish, such as a bright blue, yellow, green, red, you apply the 3rd coat clear top coat, which protects the painted finish from the sun, from damage from the sun's UV rays. So here's examples of 50% fluoropolymer color chart. I mentioned there's the option of 70% fluoropolymer or 50%. 50% also contains metallic flakes. So if you look at these, they kind of have a metallic look to them because there's metallic or mica flakes in them to simulate the appearance of, in many cases, an anodized finish adjacent to it. And then here's a chart representing 70% fluoropolymer finishes. Note how these tend to be kind of earth tone finishes. These are all 2-coat paints. When you get into brighter finishes, you're probably going to be moving toward a 3-coat application. Powder coats are dry solvent-free paints that emit no VOCs. They also require less energy to apply, and overspray can be cleaned up very easily. Like liquid paints, powder coats are applied electrostatically to ensure consistent surface coverage. Most powder coats are tested to AMA 2604. This is a less stringent test than AMA 2605. It only requires 1 year South Florida sun exposure. There's no primer requirements for powder coat. Corrosion resistance is good, and it is harder finish than fluoropolymer, so it performs better in high traffic areas such as entrances where people are going to be bumping into it. There are 6 steps when you do fluoropolymer paints, but powder coats only require 4 steps. Powder coat goes on dry, so there's no solvents to flash off. It's a cleaner process. There are no VOCs released in the process, and fewer steps also require less energy to complete the process. Here's an example color chart of finish options available in powder coat. That is all we have time for in this video. If you'd like to watch more of our 101 video series, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Kawneer Company, Inc.